Okay, can see now.
Okay, good morning. Just want to confirm the people online can see the introductory slide, right?
Can hear, can see.
Can see the slide, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's been a month or so. I've been on retreat. Another fantastic retreat. In our last time together, we were going through the attachment-rooted chittas. Today, we're going to complete our discussion of the attachment-rooted chittas and move into the aversion-rooted. Right? So, let me just wait. I want to see if I can float this hide toolbar. Hide floating controls. Okay. Put this over here. All right, so some frequently asked questions. This is a question that I've been asked more than once. Is a desire to meditate or a desire to learn the Dhamma, is that wholesome or unwholesome? And this is a question that I have been asked because people are concerned that they feel attachment, desire to learn, to practice, meditate, and they're afraid that that is unwholesome. So, is that true? All right. Now, genuine desire to meditate or learn Dhamma is wholesome, and it's driven by a strong wish to do, which is a chittasika called chanda. It's not driven by attachment or lobha. And I should have underlined the word genuine desire. If the reason that you want to learn the Dhamma is so that you can look good, that is attachment, right? If the reason that you want to go on retreat is that you are just looking for a way to relax and hoping to escape, then that is attachment. However, a genuine desire is a genuine wholesome desire is wholesome. Wish to do can be either wholesome or unwholesome. So chanda or motivation, it can arise together with unwholesome chittas, and it also arises with wholesome chittas. It's confusing because chanda is sometimes translated as desire. So in Bhikkhu Bodhi's comprehensive manual of Abhidhamma, he translates chanda as desire, which gives a wrong impression because people think desire is about wanting something, or it is about wanting something, a wish to do. But the way to tell the difference between attachment and unwholesome attachment and wholesome chanda is how it feels. If it's sticky by nature, then that's unwholesome. That stickiness is a characteristic of attachment. But wholesome chanda toward liberation, that is good. Okay. Now, how do attachment-rooted chittas link to craving and clinging independent origination? Actually, the term clinging, tanha, and craving, upadana, are both different manifestations of attachment. And we find this in the sutras a lot. The Buddha talked about attachment using a lot of different terms, like raga, translated as lust, is attachment. All right. Kama raga which is attachment to sense objects, is actually lobha or attachment behind it. So what the Abhidhamma does is it kind of distills all these different terms that Buddha used and groups them all under lobha. The two here that I want to focus on are craving and clinging. What is the difference? If they're both attachment, what is the difference between them? Craving or tanha, it's present in all 8 attachment bodhicittas. It's where the mind leans towards the object that's not letting go. That's a stickiness. There's a stickiness to it. But when that craving or tanha, that thirst, strengthens and hardness in taking the object that's mine or for me, in other words, relating it to self, it becomes clinging. So clinging or Abhidhamma involves clinging to sense pleasures, clinging to views, clinging to rites and rituals, clinging to self-doctrine. That's the Abhidhamma definition of clinging to Abhidhamma. And number 3 and number 4, clinging to rites and rituals and clinging to self, Sakaya Diti, self-doctrine, that is, those two are uprooted by the Sotapanna. Clinging to sensual pleasures, not until the Anagami stage, and clinging to views, actually not until the Arahata stage. So attachment comes in different grades. Clinging is the starting point. Craving is the starting point. Clinging becomes when it becomes hardened and related to a self, mine, for me. Then it becomes craving, and then it becomes clinging, and then the actual attachment to existence or attachment to the sense objects. Those are much more subtle. Attachment to sense objects that you can view or that you can experience while meditating. So let's say that, for example, you're sitting quietly meditating, it's perfectly quiet, and there's a sound outside. The meditator can experience the mind running to the ear to check out that sound. Why does the mind run to the ear? Because the mind has a habit of being attached to sense objects. And so the mind gets attracted to and sticks to that new sense object. Similarly, you can be walking and everything is going okay, and all of a sudden there's a sensation, maybe a little pain that is something you hadn't experienced or expected. Of course, the mind runs, goes, hey, what's that? Is this serious? Is this something that I should be paying attention to? So that pain can have a stickiness. The mind can go, oh, pay a lot of attention to it, all right? Those are clinging to sensual pleasures. Now, how does Vipassana noting, meditation, weaken these 8 attachment-rooted chittas? When the yogi notes wanting or sticking, describing the experience, the mind shifts from being the subject that is craving to the observer of the attachment-rooted chitta. So rather than putting the focus on what is that sound, the focus is on what is the mind doing. So the object of the awareness changes from external, the sound, the pain, whatever, to internal, what's the mind up to right now? Labeling what the mind is up to right now. So that wholesome chitta of noting displaces the attachment-rooted chitta. Two chittas cannot arise in the same moment, so the wholesome noting mind and the attachment-rooted mind are mutually exclusive. So at any one instant, it may seem that the mind is always jumping around between being attached and being observing of the attachment, but actually it's at one point, they don't happen simultaneously. It's back and forth very quickly. So if the focus is on what is the mind up to, rather than what is this pain, or what is that sound, or what is this spirit, what is this sensation. If the mind is focused internally, turned internally, it doesn't get stuck to the object of attachment. So by noting the grabbiness or the stickiness of the mind as a conditioned phenomenon, in other words, hey, that mind that was sticking, that was attached, grabbing onto that sense object, it arose and then fell away almost immediately. By noting that, the yogi prevents the process from repeating unwholesome congregated cheapness, and this starves the greed of its momentum. All right, so it's the observing not just what the mind is up to, but the momentary nature of, hey, the mind was only observing that for a fraction of a second, then it went to do something else. So observing the momentariness is giving or revealing the conditioned nature, the momentary nature of how the mind actually operates, and that is wholesome. So, any question before I go on to the next section? There's been 3 frequently asked questions. Any question on what I've just covered?
Yes, Brother Rob, can you hear me?
Yes, Chris can.
Hey, hi. Thanks for explaining. All is well when we are meditating. I struggle because after I come out from meditation, I'm back to the real world. I'm exposed to everything. I cannot close my eyes. I cannot close my senses. So do you have any advice on how do we translate to life, right? It's great. I mean, if everyone can practice this, and I think this is correct. I think we definitely any advice on do during practice life, everyday life?
So just to repeat the question, yeah, that's fine for meditation, but what about in daily life? How do we deal with a craving and attachment in daily life? Yes, craving and attachment arise constantly in daily life. You should view the way I view it is like when I'm on retreat, it's like going to the gym. I do reps with the equipment to strengthen specific muscles. But the whole purpose of going to the gym is not to build up big biceps. Not, at least not for me, all right? It's not to look good in the gym. It's so that when I go out of the gym, my body is healthier, stronger, and I can live in daily life. So similarly, what I've described here are the reps that you can do in the gym of the meditation, right? So meditation is like doing these exercises. However, when you get out into the real world, yes, it's tougher because things are happening so fast. There's more temptations and so on. But the key here, my advice is hit a pause button. From time to time, not when you're driving at 100 kilometers an hour, but at a convenient time, hit the pause button and just a habit of observing, hey, what's the mind been up to lately? What's the mind doing right now? This stops the mind has a natural momentum of proliferation, a pancha, that it's living in its own little imagined world. And that whole imagined world is all built around a self. Even when we dream, there's a self at the center of all of the dreams. So hit the pause button and stop that proliferation, even if it's only for a moment, and observe, hey, is this a sticky mind? Is this a mind that is pushing away, rejecting? Is it a rejecting mind? Is it a sticky mind? What kind of mind is happening right now? That by itself is the good starting point. You don't have to analyze the specific details of the chitas and chitasikas, all that kind of stuff. No, you don't have time for that. Just stop the proliferation and look at the mind at that moment. What is happening? Is it sticking, grabbing? Is it rejecting, pushing away? That gives you the first, that's the first and easy path. Does that help, Chris?
Yeah, that helps a lot because I'm not doing pausing. And I think you're right, but I also got to go to the gym more often. Thank you.
Yes.
Meditation, I think whatever we learn in theory and other class, it's a challenge for us to put into practice. For example, the daily thing, I have in my garden, they have when I think that one is a beautiful thing. So he was going through the highway, get our comfort, and he was trying to save a cat. The cat was almost crossing the road. But he went there, and then the cat was so scared, and then they first ran to the middle road, and then it was killed. What we did was the cat home, and then we sent our children and said, anyone can help you. And so I volunteered and said, we have a senior retiring to without guidance.
Right.
So he got, and then we buried the cat with some chanting. And then he was so interested that, we are Christian, and then Christian, and we do chanting. So we learn that part, but when we put practice, we learn that meditation. It's a very
Yes. It is extremely important that we put all this theory that we learn into practice, and not just on the cushion, not just on the meditation cushion, but as you said, in daily life, practicing compassion, loving kindness, morality in our daily life. Those are ways of building up healthy, useful habits that will build on each other, not just in this life, but in preparation for the next life. Yes, agreed. Okay, move to the next section. So we're going to go through each of the 8.
Brother Rob,
Yes.
I think Michael, you're very gentle. He raises, Michael.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. Rob, when you were describing the sticky mind, it sounded also a bit, it reminded me of the ability which is cultivated in meditation to be able to hold the object in the mind, like which is concentration. So can you differentiate the right type of stickiness and the wrong type of stickiness?
Okay. All right. So if I understand the question properly, there are forms of meditation. There are types of meditation where the objective is to hold an object in the mind. These would be the samatha types of meditation, right? Something like anapanasati or meditation leading to jhana, where the focus is to cultivate an absorption into the object. Now, when I want to say that Vipassana meditation, it is experience what is presenting itself at that moment. So you don't stick to whatever object, you just let the object flow, whatever arises at that moment, and observe it. That is Vipassana. Samatha meditation, there is the idea of the goal of becoming absorbed into the object, becoming one with, if you will, with the object. This is not driven by attachment or stickiness. Okay, the intention here is to purify the mind, because when the mind is absorbed into a kasina or a meditation object, then there is no way that a hindrance can arise. The hindrances are blocked through the strong jhanic factors, the strong jhanic factors block the hindrance of sense desire, ill will, restlessness and worry, and doubt from arising. And when the mind is absorbed in the object, the samatha object, the mind is thereby purified during that jhana experience. During that jhana experience, the mind does not, it's like there's this wall around the mind that does not allow stickiness, rejection, flurry and worry, sloth and torpor, or the skeptical doubt to come in. It's like the mind is protected and defended against those unwholesome states. So actually, it may initially appear as stickiness, but the objective is not to grasp the object. The objective is to use the object to become absorbed into it, to build this wall brick by brick, moment by moment, of stronger and stronger concentration around the mind to protect against these hindrances. So, Michael, did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Brother Rob, may
Yes.
this, what you mentioned is similar, and correct me if I'm wrong, yeah, I what you're saying, is similar to playing a round of tennis, the player is in a zone, just keep chasing the ball until sometimes their legs are tired, their legs are injured, but they just keep going, hitting the ball. So is that the same analogy? They don't feel the tiredness, they don't feel the heat, anything when they're chasing the ball on the tennis court, yeah, when they're in the zone.
Right. There is, okay, we need to differentiate between what's going on in the mind and what's going on in the body. The body, I mean, for just as an example, normally we need 6, 7, 8 hours of sleep a night to feel fresh and alert. That's the body speaking. However, when we go on retreat, 3 hours after the mind builds up, 3 hours of resting is more than enough. The body is, and that's because the mind starts to take over the body. So the training of the mind and the training of the body are separate things. So when the tennis player is, quote, in the zone, it's the mind taking over and just driving through muscle memory, the right movements and the right actions that allow them to perform at a level that they normally would not be able to. You need to be, and I think I'm not an athlete, but all athletes will tell you that the mental preparation is extremely important for top performance. Okay, so yes, in a way, there is an analogy there. Okay, other question here? All right, we're going to go through each of the 8 attachment root chikas, and I will talk about the distortion, the typical behavior, and then we're going to talk about an analogy or not an analogy, but a real life example. There's somebody at a buffet line, and what the thought might be in their mind that represents this type of chitta. So the first chitta is unprompted, with wrong view, pleasant feeling. This is what you see in the Abhidhamma text, how it is described. Unprompted, which means spontaneous, with wrong view, in other words, the mind is supported by a wrong understanding, and pleasant feeling. There's a pleasant, that's self-explanatory. The distortion of reality that is taken on at that moment is that there's a pleasant attachment fused with wrong view. The typical behavior is there's a spontaneous grasping. It just happens natural, a natural, unprompted, spontaneous grasping justified by the belief, oh, this is truly mine, this is lasting. So the example of a person at the buffet, they looked at the buffet and go, hey, this is great. I deserve to enjoy as much as I want. There's nothing wrong with indulging. So we can see how there's a pleasant feeling. We can see how there's a wrong view behind it. And we see that it is spontaneous. So that is an example. Chica number 2 is the same, except instead of unprompted, it's prompted. In other words, it's not spontaneous, but it's because of habit. It's because somebody else induced the idea. So here, there is a pleasant attachment with wrong view, encouraged by reflection, in other words, internally, or persuasion, externally. And there is a deliberate clinging defended intellectually. That is the typical behavior. So in this case, the person in the buffet queue says, all right, I'm going to just take a moment here. And then they think, come on, this is good value. Everybody does it. It's silly for me not to make the most of it. All right. So we can see how that is attachment rooted, right? And there's a wrong view behind it. There's a justification, a rationalization. And it is not spontaneous, right? You had to convince yourself that's why to take this perspective. All right. So those are the examples of thoughts that could happen at the person at a buffet. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to swap out that last column and talk about what are the remedies. What are the things, according to the suttas and the commentary, what are the remedies that you can apply to overcome this type of chitta? So first, for the spontaneous attachment with pleasant feeling and wrong view, contemplation of anicca, dukkha, anatta. Everything is impermanent. No use getting attached to anything. So reflecting on that repeatedly makes the mind less likely to spontaneously say, I want this. Second, insight into dependent origination and reflection on ownership. This is not mine. All right. I remember seeing a movie from, I don't know, many years ago, Crocodile Dundee. And he was saying to his girlfriend, he said, you see all these land here? And technically it belongs to me. But that means nothing. This land was here long before I was born, and it will be here long after I die. How can I say I own this land? And it was a funny movie, but that was a philosophical point that really struck me, I don't know, 40 years ago, about, hey, we don't own the land. I don't own the money in my wallet. I'm just the current possessor of it. All right. So reflecting on that, reflection on ownership really stops this spontaneous idea of, hey, that's for me, I want it. Secondly, the prompted here, this is where that same wrong view, that same attachment, this time prompted through self-prompting or through others, here, cultivation of right view, seeing things in the right way, studying the Dhamma, wise reflection, Viviso Manasakara, association with Kalyanamitta. Kalyanamitta is noble friend. But when you look at the definition of Kalyanamitta in the commentary, it explains as someone who supports your practice. It's not just a friend. We often talk about, oh yeah, we're a group of Kalyanamitta. You know, that's our Kalyanamitta. We're all just a bunch of friends. Actually, it's specifically to support the practice. One day, Ananda came to the Buddha and said, Venerable Sir, I was just meditating, and I realized that having Kalyana Mitta is half of the holy life. In other words, the support of to be a monk, having other support from meditators and so on, is half of the holy life. The Buddha said, no, Ananda, you're wrong. It is the whole of the holy life. The Buddha said, I am your Kalyana Mitta. The Buddha, his teaching, the Dhamma, all right, and the Sangha, all those are our Kalyana Mitta. So those are for the first two chittas. Next two chittas are the same as the first two, except we don't have wrong view this time. The wrong view made the chitta comically more weighty because there was this wrong view behind it, pushing it along. Here, that does not exist. So these chittas are a little bit weaker. So the first one, unprompted, spontaneous, without wrong view, with a pleasant feeling. So this is happy liking that happens naturally, rises naturally, without any beliefs. This is impulsive sensual grasping. So going back to our buffet, the person feels immediate attraction. Hey, that looks delicious. But there's no, I paid for this, I should get it. Just a realization, a recognition that that looks delicious. There's attachment, definitely. But there's none of this, hey, I deserve this. There's nothing wrong with indulging. I should make the most of it. Those are wrong views. It's simply a statement that looks delicious. The next one, chitta number 4, same as the previous one, except it's prompted. That needs self-reflection or it needs persuasion. No wrong view, pleasant feeling. This is deliberately pursued sensual attachment. So this is intentional indulgence. Though initially unsure, they look, they think, and then say, maybe I should try a bit more. It does look very good. All right, so there is indulgence there. There is the attachment, but there's none of the wrong view of, I deserve this. Right? I paid for it.
Brother
What
Rob,
are the, yes.
Chris here. Okay,
Yes, Chris.
I give a real life situation. I'm not sure it is number 3 and number 4. Friend came back from US. He yearns for Hokkien Mee. So he asked me to arrange for Hokkien Mee. But I don't yearn for Hokkien Mee, but because I want to see him, I arrange for Hokkien Mee. So number 3 or number 4?
Okay, for you or your friend?
For me.
Oh. Okay.
I still yearn to see him. Is that a problem? So number 3 or number 4? I don't yearn for the Hokkien Mee. Yeah, I think. Do you want me to, that part is clear, right? Because I don't go and hunt for Hokkien Mee when he is not back, right? So
Right.
he comes back. Yeah. So where does it sit? 3 or 4?
All right. Let's talk about your friend first. For me, by the way, it's pan mee. There's a pan mee place in PJ that I really love. Not Hokkien mee, but pan mee. So I can relate.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
here,
banh mi. Yes, let's use banh mi. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So here, let's talk about me or your friend first.
Okay.
Is this spontaneous or do I have to convince myself? This is spontaneous, right? So
Prompted, right? Because he
No.
came back, then he prompted me. No. Oh.
I don't know. I'm talking about your friend.
Okay, got it.
First, we'll talk about your friend. Your friend, like me, whenever I come back here from Australia, I just got back from Indonesia. The first thing I want is pan mee. This is not prompted. This is spontaneous. All right, definitely spontaneous. Now,
Okay.
therefore, it's prompted. It's unprompted. Now, is there attachment? Absolutely. What about the wrong view? Is there the idea that, hey, I deserve this, or is there any wrong view behind it? No. So
Yeah.
that would be number 3. Okay.
Okay.
Number 3 for your friend and me.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
We're number 3. Now,
Yes.
you are wanting to spend time with your friend. We're going to put the
Yes.
we're going to put the pan me or the Hokkien me aside. Your real desire is to spend time with your friend. So there is definitely a attachment there. All right. Is there a pleasant feeling? Yes, because you're going to enjoy spending time with your friend. Is there a wrong view? I don't think so. So I would say your sexual grasping is not for the Hokkien me or the pan me. Your sensual grasping is the friendship, is the conversation, is the time you're spending with him. So number 3,
Thanks.
This is not going to drag you to hell. All right, this type of attachment.
Thank you.
But okay, having said that, though it is weak, it accumulates and builds up, right? And so it becomes a habit. I'm not saying that you don't go out with your friend, but be aware of this habit of building up this sensual attachment. All right. Anyway, sensual attachment doesn't go away until you're an anagami, so it's kind of far in the distance. All right.
Okay, thanks, Brother Rob. Very clear.
right.
Thanks.
Now, so what is the remedy according to the suttas or commentary for number 3, which we've just gone through, the kanbi, your friend, and your friend with his Hokkien me, you with your wanting to see your friend. Asuba, all right, contemplation. That's looking at the foulness of the body. Actually, last time I went to my favorite pan mi restaurant, I went to the bathroom and there was a dead rat in the bathroom. All right. So I reflect that, hey, you know what? This is probably not the most hygienic place. And that reflection could be enough to lessen my spontaneous desire to go for pan-pi whenever I get into town. All right, that the foulness of the body or the foulness of the situation. Okay. And reflection on the unattractive nature of sense objects. Looking at, you know what? It's not that. All right. I am a vegetarian. Why am I a vegetarian? About 20 years ago, I had a big steak. And the next day, it felt so heavy in my stomach. And so there was a reflection that said, you know what? My body it's not suitable for this kind of meat. All right. And so I became a vegetarian for last 20 years. So this is reflection on the unattractive nature of sense objects. For the prompted, sense restraint and moderation in eating, guarding the sense doors, observing what's going on at the sense doors. And this, again, go to the gym, the mental gym, which is the meditation retreat, and watch what is going on at all of those sense doors while you eat, while you walk, while you meditate. Observe what is happening at all the sense doors, and one can see what happens. And I used earlier the example of it's very, very quiet. And there's a sound outside. And the mind runs there and starts to analyze. Oh, that's a person speaking. Then the mind proliferates. How can they be don't they know this is a meditation hall? Shouldn't they be quiet? Who is that speaking? All of this proliferation happening. It's good to observe, guard the sense door, observe how the mind reacts. because it's just like a magician. Once you have a spotlight and shine it on how the magician performs their trick, it no longer fools you. So putting the flashlight, or the torch on the details of how the mind is reacting spontaneously to sense objects at a sense door means that they don't control, they lose some of their control. All right, now we're going to move to neutral feeling. If you remember, I talked about neutral feeling as being like zombie greed. This is like doom scrolling on your phone. You're not particularly no pleasant feeling, but there's this attachment. I guess what's the next message? What's the next Google News? All of this is doom scrolling on your phone. This is a zombie greed, which can be, it's not going to send you to hell from doom scrolling on your phone, but it is not wholesome. So here, unprompted, spontaneous, back to wrong view again, neutral feeling. So here is subtle attachment combined with wrong view. There's this quiet but persistent identification phenomenon. So here, the person in the buffet is thinking, hey, I'm not all that excited. They're not just that excited about it, but they casually think, all right, there's no issue here. Taking more than needed is perfectly fine. I mean, okay, when I was working, I spent 30 years traveling on the road. And when you're on the road, that means hotel breakfast every morning. So every morning I faced the same kind of hotel buffet that many people pay a lot of money to, I mean, on holiday to experience. But for me, it was like, okay, another city, another hotel room, another buffet breakfast. So there was no excitement there. But sometimes I did take more than natural, and that was, there was this idea that it's okay that. But this is an example of spontaneous with wrong view, that it's okay to take more than I really need. Neutral feeling, that's an example. Now, number 6 is prompted. In other words, somebody, either I convinced myself or somebody persuaded me. Again, wrong view and neutral feeling. This is conceptual claim supported by reasoning or rationalization. So doctrinal attachment. So this is when the person thinks, yeah, it's okay to take more. I already paid for this. All right. So there's some wrong view here. There is attachment, but there's no pleasant feeling. It's a neutral feeling. How to overcome them? Number 5, the spontaneous version, insight into conditionality. Everything arises because of conditions and the analytical contemplation of Namarupa. Breaking everything down into mind and matter is a good way of recognizing there is no permanence, non-permanence, non-self, leave it at non-permanence, non-self. The prompted with wrong view, neutral feeling, investigation of Dhamma Vichaya, and repeated reflection on dependent arising about how we're all tied to this samsaric cycle. Finally, unprompted, so spontaneous, no wrong view but neutral feeling, subtle habitual attachment without strong feeling. This is passive clean, the neutral experience. This is doom scrolling. All right. Absently mind, make more food, no clear thought, just a visual reaching for another item. And I can relate to that. All right. So sometimes I wasn't thinking, oh, I can take more than I need. It just happened. I just said, oh, I'm used to it. Extra serving. Just a habit. Now the same thing with reflection and persuasion, habitual attachment, reinforcement by habitual thinking, quiet accumulation of self-craving. First thinks perhaps I should take a little bit more for later. So again, No wrong view, just, yeah, I think we're more, but it's after reflection. How to get rid of it? Mindfulness of impermanence, continuous noting of the rise and passing, contemplation of the danger and sensuality of being attached to these sense objects, contemplation, reflection on the drawbacks of attachment. So these last two, the doom scrolling, it's the way to come over to get over them. Just say, look, this is attachment. I really shouldn't be doing this. And there, it's always just a rising and passing, a rising and passing. There's nothing substantial here. All right. All, going back to the Abhidhamma, all unwholesome chittas have the universal characteristics of contact, feeling, perception, volition, one-pointedness, mental life faculty, and attention. Every single chitta has those 7 chittasikas. They can be very weak in the background, sometimes difficult to observe, especially outside of a meditation environment. It may seem that they're theoretical, but the Abhidhamma was written by meditators. And when they analyzed the mind, always they found contact, feeling, perception, volition, some level of one-pointedness, and mental life faculty, and attention as existing, always there. All attachment to the chittas have the occasional chittasikas of issuance, state application, decision, energy, and wish to do. So they all, every time that there is attachment, all of these arise. Now, zest, piti, that arises with pleasant feeling. So I've listed the 8 chittas out here as columns and given a brief description of each of them. 1 and 2 have pleasant feeling. 3 and 4 have pleasant feeling. 5, 6, 7, and 8 have neutral feeling. So zest is in 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's go through the other chittasikas involved. Delusion, shamelessness, fearlessness of wrongdoing, and restlessness. Those 4 are in every single unwholesome chitta. So they're going to rise across the board. Attachment is going to rise across the board in all of these 8. Wrong view and conceit, which we'll come back to, sometimes arise. Sloth and torpor sometimes arises. So here are the details. You see that delusion, shamelessness, wrongdoing, fearlessness of wrongdoing, restlessness, and attachment, all 8 have those chittasikas. Wrong view, well, you look at the description of the chitta to see that it's 1, 2, 5, and 6 that have wrong view. Conceit. Oh, and sorry, sloth and torpor, jump down to sloth and torpor for a moment. They're in 2, 4, 6, and 8. Those are with the prompted chittas, right? So spontaneous chittas don't have sloth and torpor, but prompted chittas do. Conceit, this little tilde sign, that means sometimes there, sometimes not. So conceit arises only with chittas without wrong view, and only when the object is suitable for self-comparison. We need to dive into this a little bit further, this whole conceit thing. So why conceit and wrong view not exist together? Using an analogy, wrong view is like a person who believes they're holding a precious diamond. They don't need to compare it with anybody else's gem because the belief in its value is unconditional. In other words, there is this perspective, this belief at the foundation that this is a diamond. Conceit is like a person who knows they hold a stone of unknown value and holds it next to others to assess whether theirs is the finest, equal, or inferior. So wrong view asserts, is convinced without comparison. Conceit measures by comparison. two perspectives are incompatible with each other. Now, let's say I've got in my hand, I'm 100% convinced this is a diamond, right? So there is a view, a belief that I am holding a diamond. I don't compare it with anything. However, I happen to visit a jeweler or an expert in this stuff, and they said, no, that's quartz. Right? What you're holding is quartz, not diamond. That belief, that view evaporates suddenly. No longer do I believe I've got a diamond. Now, it's only quartz. It's almost worthless, right? Because that view was shattered by an expert. Here's an analogy. Now, this is an analogy. There is this belief in self. That is a view, Sakaya Ditti. There is absolutely convinced that there's a self. Why? Because everything gets centered around this self. Everything is organized around this concept of self. Therefore, it must be real. To quote Descartes, I think, therefore I am. I mean, everything is about I think, I am. However, when that person with that strong belief in self experiences Nibbana and becomes a Sotapanna, it's like that jeweler saying, you know what? This is just quartz. There is no self. And all of a sudden, wrong view evaporates. Just like after being told by an expert that what I'm holding is simple quartz and not a diamond, I never see the value in that rock anymore. It's only just a rock. Similarly, person who has a belief in self, once they experience Nibbana for the first time as a Sotapanna, that it is absolutely canceled, nullified, eliminated, and can never arise again, because now they just see it as just now. This is why wrong view is eradicated by Sotapanna, the first stage of sainthood. On the other hand, conceit is a habit of comparison. Habits are not the same as views. Habits, if you've got a habit of comparing, doesn't matter if you know there's no self, there's still this Nama Rupa is different from that Nama Rupa. All right? So that's why, in summary, conceit is so much more difficult to uproot than wrong view. Wrong view, one slap in the face by Nibbana, you're convinced, all right, that self thing, complete garbage. But the habit still needs time to really go through and unwind, not just decades, but lifetimes worth of comparison. All right? This is why conceit is not uprooted until the Arahat stage. Whereas wrong view, as soon as I'm told by the jeweler, this is a piece of quartz, worthless, no longer do I believe it's a diamond. When there's the experience of Nibbana by the Sotapanna, no longer do they believe that it is that there is a self because of their personal experience.
Brother Chris here.
Yeah, Chris.
I got a question here. Is clinging on to a healthy body a wrong view or a conceit?
Okay. Conceit is comparison. Is there a comparison? Are you is there inherent comparison there, saying my body and the body of the person next to me? No. There's no, I mean, and when I say comparison, I want to make it clear. It's not necessary. Normally, when we say conceit, there is the idea of being better. But conceit is any form of comparison, whether it is better, equal, or worse. Is there any comparison going on? Doesn't appear to be. Clinging on to a wholesome, to a fit body, there's no conceit there, but there is definitely a view. Far more important than having a healthy body is having a healthy mind. All right? Going for the gym of the mind, in other words, meditation, not just the gym for the body. Of course, the body needs, and this is a reflection when I'm on retreat. Every single meal, I take this food not for beautification, not to have a beautiful body, but simply to support the practice. That's why I take this food. It's putting the purpose of eating into perspective. And so it's not, is this my favorite food or not? It's not my Hokkien meat or pan meat or whatever. No, this is just nutrition is needed to support the body, to support the practice. It's putting that mindset every single meal. That's the purpose of that. And monks are required, or they're supposed to do this. The Buddha told them to do this before every meal, have this reflection. All right. So the desire to have a healthy body, that is a view. All right.
Okay, thanks, Claire. Claire, Brother Rob, thank you.
Okay. Wrong view is like a person with a faulty map, firmly believing this is the true terrain. They don't question their map or compare it with other maps. So this is, again, the conviction is self-contained and unquestioned. It's just like I'm saying, hey, oh, I got this beautiful diamond here. I believe it's a diamond. I'm sure it's a diamond. This is a view. Okay. Actually, it's just a hunk of quartz. Actually, the map is faulty, but you believe it, right? You believe it. Conceit is like a person holding a measuring stick, constantly measuring heights, taller, shorter, equal. Concern is not the truth itself, but relative standing. So wrong view misapprehends reality itself, clings to that misapprehension. Conceit does not assert truth or falseness, but constructs a sense of self through comparison. Because one fixes a view, the other compares, they can't arise together. Why is wrong view easier to uproot than conceit? So wrong view, or Sakaya Ditti, is the belief in a self. It's a wrong idea the mind is holding. It says there's a real lasting me inside these mind and body processes. So when the Sotapanna attains or sees Nibbana for the first time, that wrong idea is completely and permanently falsified. They can no longer believe it to be true. It's like I walk up to a stream, I say, I believe I can jump over the stream. This is blind faith. So I start reading about jumping, reading all the details on how to jump over streams. This is reasoned faith. Then after doing all this reading of how to jump over a stream, I say, I can jump over the stream. This is no longer blind faith because I've studied. This is a reasoned faith. So I practice jumping on my side of the stream. I'm an Olympic level stream jumper, but on my side of the stream. Okay? This is through practice. This is a faith from practice. So after doing all that practicing, I say, I can jump over that stream. There's still 99% certainty, 1%, maybe I misstep on the one step. However, once I've actually jumped over the stream, the whole idea of I can jump over the stream is a tautology. It's obvious because I've already done it. The thought doesn't even arise. If I can jump over this thing, what's happened? It's not. Similarly, the Sotapanna before, the Puthajjana, the worldling, before they experienced Nibbana, sure, they've studied, they've practiced. There's all this, yes, I've observed that there's no self, I've observed anatta, I've been practicing, I've read about it. Oh yeah, no self. However, it's only once there's that experience of Nibbana, that crossing of the stream, and the Buddha himself used this analogy, that crossing of the stream, where after crossing the stream, the whole idea of self cannot arise because it's just obvious. It's like someone insisting there's a snake in the corner of the room. And then you go over, turn on the light, and just see it's a coiled rope. Once you've seen that, you'll never again be frightened of that coiled rope. The belief cannot come back because it has been directly contradicted by reality itself. So wrong view is a mistake in understanding, and direct seeing corrects it once and for all. By direct seeing, I mean experiencing Nibbana, corrects wrong view, finally, once and for all. Conceit, it's not a belief or a view. It's more like a deeply ingrained habit of the heart that constantly, almost invisibly, measures and positions itself. I'm doing well, I'm better at this than she is, at least I'm not as lost as he is, or even I'm the most hopeless person ever. All three movements, superiority, equality, and inferiority, are forms of conceit. Conceit doesn't need a wrong view to keep going. Satipatthana knows with absolute certainty there's no fixed self, but the mind still, instinctively, habitually does this measure, this positioning, this quiet self-referencing, but it's no longer a concept of a self. It's, oh, this Namarupa is better than that Namarupa. Okay? The knowing and the habit operate on different levels entirely. Knowing is overcome by wrong view. It's the wrong view, right? The habit is much deeper. So here is an analogy. Imagine you grew up in a family where every single morning, before saying a word, everyone at the breakfast table silently size each other up. Who looks tired? Who looks confident? Who achieved more yesterday? You're all looking around, judging everyone, comparing everyone to others. Nobody decided this. It just happened habitually every day for decades. Your whole life, that's what happens in your family. Now, imagine you attend a meditation retreat, become a Sotapanna. Congratulations. You see clearly, beyond any doubt, the self that you've been protecting and promoting all these years, not a solid thing at all. So the wrong view is gone. But the next morning at breakfast, a subtle comparison still flicker. The old habit arises before any conscious thought even begins. The habit is still there. That's the difference. Wrong view is corrected by insight, while conceit is a habit formed over countless lifetimes, woven into the very texture of how the mind moves. It requires the entire length of the path, arahatship, to finally dissolve. Okay. So we have finished the attachment-rooted chittas. Any questions on them? Okay. We're about on time. So I think what we'll do is wrap it up here. And in our next class in 2 weeks' time, we will start with the aversion-rooted chittas. So if somebody could read the reflection.
Let's recall the awareness model. We come to remember we are so purpose to study the Dharma. We put faith, sadhana, and wise attention, we learn and understand some of the Lord Buddha's teaching. Whenever there's any doubt or wrong understanding of the teaching, we seek to clear our doubts and straighten our views. With a proper understanding of the Dharma, we can help put into practice. The right understanding of the Dharma will produce right thoughts and in turn give rise to right action, right speech, and right livelihood. Such a right frame of mind can face the realities of life. In marriage, Buddha began to listening to the Dharma, discussing on the Dharma, and strengthening our views. Help us in overcoming any difficulties we may face. We all beings with entities based on the devas and nagas of mighty powers. Rejoice in this marriage we have acquired and may they dwell protect with Nara Sasana. May this marriage be a contributing force of the realization of Nibbana. Idamini Gunam Nibbana Sara Chayo.
Sadhu, sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Yes.
On the analogy of this and there is a debate over lunch dinner. So how should we handle? Let's say for instance that if we don't have children,